The Game Boy Color, a portable gaming classic. It gave us sprawling RPGs, timeless platformers, and technically, it gave us some football games. Cramming 22 players, a referee and a ball onto a screen smaller than a post-it note was always going to be an optimistic endeavour. Some developers genuinely tried to capture the magic of football and work wonders with the hardware. Others seemingly just paid for big name endorsements to stick on the box and hope for the best. Today I am ranking all 13 football games released for the system. Before we begin, a couple of quick ground rules. I'm only looking at actual playable games, so no management titles, and I've grouped any reskinned regional variants together into single entries. I've subjected myself to every single one of these, ranking them from the absolutely unplayable right up to the one title that genuinely blew me away. So let's do this. Here is the definitive ranking of every Game Boy Color football game from worst to best. Taking the bottom spot is Zidane Football Generation. Developed by Aqua Pacific in June 2001, it arrived just a few months after their previous title, European Super League. I'm including it as a standalone entry because it's far from a straight reskin. Despite sharing the same menus as European Super League, the content here is incredibly thin. It's strictly international teams, shockingly offering just 15 to choose from. You can only select friendly, arcade or tournament mode, and match settings are limited to time and difficulty. Astonishingly, for a game fronted by an absolute football icon, it doesn't feature any player names, they are just listed in-game as their position. The game uses a side-on perspective, but the player sprites actually look worse than in European Super League. The one saving grace here is the audio. The crowd noise and horns genuinely add atmosphere, highlighted by an incredible 8-bit rendition of the chant best known for being the tune used on Dario G's Carnaval de Paris. As for Zizou himself, you get a glimpse of his face on the menu and when a goal goes in, but that's his entire contribution. On the pitch, the pace is painfully slow. Passing is snappy enough to ping it around, but actually running with the ball is practically impossible. Combine that with a bizarrely small pitch and the whole experience falls completely flat. Ultimately, this is a lazy cash grab leaning entirely on Zidane's reputation. With the threadbare team choice and terrible on-pitch action, it simply isn't fun to play. The audio is probably the sole redeeming feature in a dreadful package. Can't believe I'm saying this, but coming in at number 12 is International Superstar Soccer 99. Developed by Konami and released in 1999, it also hit Japan under the name World Soccer GB2. Given the pedigree of the series on home consoles, I went into this one with pretty high hopes. Content wise, it's quite bare. You get a lean selection of just 32 international teams and a very restricted set of modes. Friendlies, penalties and an international cup. It does include those classic ISS handicap options, letting you tweak player condition and goalkeeper ability, alongside some welcome in-game strategy settings. As expected with Konami at the time, it uses sound-alike player names instead of official licenses. Visually, it is a strange one. You get a nice side-on perspective and the UI is genuinely impressive for the Game Boy Color, displaying player names, team names and the score right on the screen, which many other developers simply didn't attempt. However, despite the large player sprites, to me the graphics look remarkably dated. It resembles something from the late 80s rather than 99, hampered by incredibly choppy animations. Audio-wise, an up-tempo soundtrack plays non-stop, even during matches. It's hit and miss, though the menu track is definitely a tune. On the pitch is where my heart genuinely broke. For a Konami football title, this is shockingly unresponsive. The physics are bizarre. Players without the ball act like they aren't even there. The whole experience feels incredibly laboured. Even executing a simple pass to a teammate is a chore, and shooting past the superhuman goalkeepers is immensely frustrating. Oh, and as far as I can tell, you literally cannot pause the match, which is crazy. Look, I'm just as shocked as you are. I cannot believe I'm saying this about an ISS title, but this is a really poor effort. With frustrating gameplay, hardly any modes and a tiny team selection, it is a massive disappointment. I would strongly advise avoiding this one. Thankfully, Konami managed to salvage things with the follow-up ISS 2000, which we will look at a bit later in this video. Coming in at number 11 is Three Lions, developed by Tarantula Studios and released in 1999. This is a scaled down port of the PC and PS1 title of the same name, serving as the official game of the England national team. In terms of content, you have friendlies, penalty shootouts and a tournament mode that essentially acts as a World Cup. It features 53 international sides and crucially actually includes real player names. You also get a few welcome tactical choices, allowing you to shuffle player positions and make substitutions alongside some standard audio settings. From a visual standpoint, it adopts a top-down perspective, but it's incredibly rough on the eyes. The player sprites lack detail and the animations are so limited that half the time the players barely look like they are moving or turning. You can see a bit of the crowd hugging the touchline, which is a welcome detail, but that's about the only visual positive. Audio-wise, you are subjected to an annoying, repetitive track that plays incessantly throughout the match, accompanied by some very standard sound effects. The action on the pitch is fast paced, but it's a complete mess. Bizarrely, when a player is in possession, the ball essentially vanishes, which certainly makes things interesting. Tackling is incredibly frustrating as almost every challenge results in a foul, constantly breaking up the flow of the match. Furthermore, you have to manually control your goalkeeper, a layer of difficulty I would frankly rather do without. Passing and shooting are equally punishing. The shooting mechanics are so floaty that you'll constantly sky the ball over the bar. Your only real hope of scoring is hitting it from a long distance. The whole experience feels incredibly rigid and restricted. Aside from a pixelated attempt at the England kit, the game barely utilises its official licence at all. Despite releasing in 1999, it looks and plays like a relic from an early 8-bit home console era. The on-pitch action is chaotic and disjointed, and I found myself getting bored incredibly quickly. This is definitely one to miss. Kicking off our top 10 is David Beckham Soccer, developed by Yo-Yo Entertainment and released late in the console's life cycle in early 2002. This is a scaled down portable version of the PlayStation 1 title. The menu offers a surprisingly deep selection of options. You have friendlies, domestic leagues and cup competitions. There's an impressive 64 international sides alongside a hefty selection of European club teams. However, the clubs are completely unlicensed, meaning you'll be playing out fierce European ties between the likes of Göteborg G and Munich Blue. Aside from Becks himself, there are no real player names anywhere to be found. You also get Train with Beckham mode, letting you practice corners, tackling and even recreate some of his most iconic free kicks like this. There's also a text-based biography and Q&A section where you can finally uncover hard-hitting facts like his favourite pre-match meal and exactly how many keep-ups he can do. The game uses an angled bird's eye perspective. The player sprites are fairly simple, but it does include a handy player indicator, something a lot of Game Boy Color football titles omitted. You also get nice little details like the referee actually running onto the pitch for fouls. Strangely though, there's no whistle sound effect when the foul is given, the action just abruptly halts, which is quite jarring. On the pitch, things take a turn for the worse. The action is decidedly on the slower side, and building up any sort of rhythm is a real struggle. Every pass and movement feels heavily laboured, leaving you with very little genuine control over the match. To make matters worse, the pitch feels absolutely massive, and the transitions whenever the ball goes out of play are agonisingly drawn out. It creates a frustrating stop-start experience. To give credit where it's due, the developers actually did something creative with the Beckham license rather than just slapping his face on the box. It boasts a solid variety of modes, but the plodding stop-start gameplay meant I lost patience with it incredibly quickly. This one is strictly for the hardcore Beckham fans. Ironically, coming in at number 9 is Ronaldo V-Football. Endorsed by the legendary R9 himself, this is essentially a reskinned version of UEFA 2000, which we'll be looking at a bit later on. While the home console versions were handled by PAM Development, this portable outing was crafted by Bit Managers. There is a hefty amount of content here, featuring a combined 117 club and international sides. The clubs are completely unlicensed, so you'll be taking to the field as Highbury or Manchester. Even Inter, Ronaldo's team at the time, are here as Milano. Fortunately, you do get real player names and the ability to edit those team names. Bizarrely though, the squads only feature a starting 11, there are no substitutes whatsoever. Modes include friendlies, leagues, cups, training and a few bespoke Ronaldo cups. You also get a toggle between simulation and arcade styles in the options, though the difference on the pitch is negligible at best. Graphics wise, the vibrant pitch looks good and touchline billboards add a nice splash of authenticity. The camera distance is pitched perfectly, zoomed out just enough to spot your teammates for a pass without losing the detail of the character sprites. The animations are a little stiff, but the player likenesses look decent compared to most. The menu music is suitably funky, but weirdly the crowd effects make it sound like a ghost is haunting the stadium. Once you kick off, the ball physics are surprisingly solid and the action ticks along fairly smoothly. It is tricky to master though, requiring genuine precision when manually aiming your passes and shots. The main frustration lies in the pacing. Running with the ball at your feet reduces the game to an absolute crawl, while players off the ball zip around like lightning. It creates a very inconsistent, jarring flow to matches. It boasts a massive team selection, decent visuals and plenty of modes. I'm sure it rewards the patience required to master those strict passing mechanics, but as you'll see shortly, there is a better version of this exact engine available on the system. Unless you're a die-hard R9 fan, which let's be honest, I absolutely am, you can probably skip this one. Coming in at number 8 is J-League Excite Stage GB. Developed by Artco Limited and released in 1999, this Japan exclusive is a portable version of the 16-bit SNES title bearing the exact same name. As you might expect, the menus are entirely in Japanese. The content is definitely on the lighter side, offering the 16 domestic clubs of the era to choose from. You are limited to either playing a quick friendly or diving into a cup tournament, alongside a handful of standard settings if you can manage to translate them. The presentation is where this entry really earns a few charm points. It features a lovely Japanese art style complete with menu icons that really suit the vibe, plus some brilliantly fun cutscenes whenever you manage to score. On the pitch the colours are vibrant and the players sport the cool cartoony anime look. Unfortunately they do all look identical during a match and the actual movement animations are incredibly limited. Audio wise you're treated to some punchy energetic tunes playing throughout. The action runs smoothly enough, but the ball itself feels like a dead weight, even if the underlying physics actually hold up reasonably well. The gameplay feels quite restricted and generally lacks pace, making it a bit of a plodding experience. However, there is one interesting quirk. The goals are massive compared to the tiny player sprites. Because of this, I found matches tend to turn into high scoring affairs, which does add a layer of chaotic fun. It boasts a few endearing visual quirks, but ultimately this is a fiercely average football game. It isn't terrible by any stretch, but it certainly isn't a hidden masterpiece either. Unless you're a massive enthusiast of late 90s Japanese domestic football, there simply isn't enough going on here to justify battling through the language barrier. Coming in at number 7 is European Super League. Developed by Aqua Pacific, this is a portable adaptation of the home console game. It is actually a complete reskin of Mia Hamm's Soccer Shootout, which came out a year earlier, featuring identical mechanics. And yes, these are the exact same developers responsible for the dreadful Zidane football generation we suffered through down at number 13. Thankfully, this outing fares much better. The big draw here is the official licensing. You get 16 European club teams with real player names, though Manchester United is glaringly absent, having reportedly been replaced by Chelsea during development. Game types include friendlies, an arcade mode acting as a full European Cup, and the customisable tournament. Beyond tweaking formations and your starting 11, team management is non-existent, and match settings are restricted to simply adjusting the difficulty in time. Before we talk about anything else, we have to acknowledge this outrageous title tune. It has absolutely no right being this good on an 8-bit handheld.
the music, man. This guy's a genius.
They must have blown the entire audio budget on it, because during a match there is zero music or crowd noise, just the solitary sound of a ball being kicked. There isn't even any audio when you score, making the atmosphere incredibly eerie. Visually, it does a decent job. The colours pop nicely and the sprites attempt player likenesses with varying skin tones and fairly accurate kit colours. The on-pitch action is a mixed bag. Passing is actually quite snappy and the fast pace works well if you keep the ball moving quickly. You'll definitely need to, because the opposition AI can seemingly tackle you from miles away. The main frustration is how disjointed it feels. Every single foul triggers a cutaway to a jumbotron screen, completely shattering the flow of the match. Furthermore, the goalkeepers possess psychic abilities, often diving in the exact right way before you've even hit the shoot button. It feels smooth enough to play, and having official clubs is a definite bonus. However, with only 16 teams to choose from and a limited suite of modes, the longevity just isn't there. It has genuine moments of snappy passing fun, but that constantly interrupted stop-start nature prevents it from climbing any higher up the table. Taking the number 6 spot is the FA Premier League Stars 2001. Developed by Chrysalis Software and released in 2001, this is the handheld port of the PC and PS1 title from the previous year. As the title proudly suggests, this is a fully licensed affair focusing entirely on the English top flight, complete with authentic squads and real player names. Interestingly, if you lived on the continent, you might have seen regional variants of this exact engine, such as Bundesliga Stars in Germany or LNF Stars for the French League. In terms of content, you get friendlies, a full league mode and the custom cup option. Strangely though, there are absolutely no match settings to tweak. You are locked into the default setup whether you like it or not. It adopts a vertical top-down view that feels very much like a zoomed-in sensible soccer. The pitches look sharp and the character sprites actually attempt a bit of individual player likeness, which was a rarity on this hardware. The animations are uncomplicated but effective. The audio, however, is where it really shines. Impressively, you get constant crowd noise and chants throughout the match alongside solid sound effects. It delivers a much better matchday atmosphere than most of its peers on the system. The control scheme is incredibly streamlined, essentially mapping all of your main actions to a single button. While that sounds overly simplistic, it actually results in a surprisingly fluid, snappy game of football. Zipping the ball around the pitch feels great. The main hurdle is that without any difficulty settings to lower, you're at the mercy of some seriously overpowered goalkeepers. Finding the back of the net is a genuine challenge, meaning you just have to graft and figure out exactly what angles work to beat them. This one turned out to be a pleasant surprise. Having that full, authentic Premier League licence in your pocket is a massive plus. While it obviously doesn't quite reach the legendary heights of a true sensible soccer title, leaning into that fast-paced top-down arcade style was an incredibly smart move by the developers. It plays remarkably well, sounds fantastic, and offers a highly engaging football fix. Breaking into our top 5 is UEFA 2000. Developed by Bit Managers and released in 2000, don't confuse this with EA's official tournament tie-in. This is actually the original game engine behind Ronaldo V-Football, which we saw earlier at number 9. The licensing here is a total oddity. Despite carrying the official UEFA branding, the main European Championship is cryptically named National Team Competition. Stranger still, it holds an official England endorsement, used mainly to display these wonderful pixelated portraits of England stars from the era. It focuses exclusively on European international sides, impressively offering all 51 UEFA nations. Squads use mostly real names, though a few teams like Germany feature made-up ones. Modes are plentiful: friendlies, full Euro campaign with qualifiers, leagues, custom cups and training. Just like Ronaldo, you can't make substitutions during a match, but you do get that crucial toggle between simulation and arcade. Looks-wise, it's pretty much identical to the Ronaldo version. Vibrant pictures, sharp presentation and solid detailed character sprites. Audio-wise, you get crowd chatter, stadium horns and that exact same ghost noise from Ronaldo V-Football. Though it remains far better than total silence. On the pitch, this surprisingly outshines its R9 endorsed twin. It feels much easier to get to grips with, and crucially, switching to arcade mode actually works here. It speeds everything up and completely fixes the plodding dribbling mechanics that plagued Ronaldo V-Football. You still have to manually line up your passes and shots, which can make things a bit chaotic at times, but the pace is much snappier and scoring genuinely feels satisfying, with a great variety of goals possible. Bizarre licensing quirks aside, UEFA 2000 packs in a great team selection, plenty of modes and genuinely fun on-pitch action. It can all get a bit messy when the ball is bouncing all over the place and hard to control, but especially on that arcade setting it delivers a pretty fun experience overall. The developers of our next game, Live Media, clearly looked at all the other studios using massive superstar names to sell their games, said hold my beer and landed the big one. David O'Leary's Total Soccer 2000. Released in January 2000, this is literally just the UK release of Total Soccer 2000, identical in every way apart from David gracing the box art. You might wonder why they chose the then Leeds manager to front a football game, but they did release O'Leary Manager 2000 a year later, which makes a bit more sense. You get single player friendlies, link-up games, domestic leagues and a European Cup, alongside custom tournament options. There is a great selection of fully licensed club teams spanning the top flights of England, Italy, France, Germany, Spain and Holland, plus Celtic and Rangers for good measure. It also includes player records and in-game replays, which are always a welcome addition. The only real frustration is having to manually sim through all the other CPU matches during a cup run before you can actually play your own tie. It uses a top-down perspective. The visuals aren't groundbreaking, but the textured pitch looks quite nice. The main menu tune is decent, but repeats endlessly, which could get quite grating after a while. During matches, the audio is a bit sparse. You get some low quality crowd noise at kickoff and after goals, but otherwise it's completely silent apart from the standard sound of the ball being kicked. On the pitch is where the game really shines. The action is fluid and fast paced, making passing the ball around feel genuinely rewarding. You can even add curl to your shots, which works brilliantly and lets you score some absolute screamers. It's pretty simple and it doesn't do anything overly complicated, but it is good fun to play for what it is. Overall, this is a very solid title. It plays things quite safe, but delivers a strong selection of licensed clubs and modes. It's incredibly easy to pick up, and that fast, fluid pace makes it one of the most enjoyable football games on the handheld. You could certainly do a lot worse. Taking the bronze medal at number 3 is International Superstar Soccer 2000. Released in July 2000, this was Konami's attempt to right the absolute wrongs of ISS 99. If you imported it, you might know it as World Soccer GB 2000 in Japan. Content-wise, it takes a solid step forward. Modes include friendlies, an international cup, mini-leagues, mini-tournaments and penalty shootouts. Team selection has been bumped up to 48 international teams, though for some baffling reason England is abbreviated as GBR. As you would expect from ISS, it's all sound-alike names. It also brings back some of those legendary ISS settings, letting you tweak player condition and goalkeeper ability before kickoff. The presentation is a bit of a mixed bag. The trademark catchy Konami music is present and correct. This time during matches there is no music, but you do get a banging crowd drum noise that actually adds a decent bit of atmosphere. Visually, the player sprites are large and look fantastic. To pull this off without slowing the console to a halt, the developers opted for a massively zoomed in camera angle. You also get options to change the stadium, time of day and weather, though the only real difference at night is that the pitch looks slightly duller. One annoyance is that the kit colours can look quite washed out, making some of the matches an absolute nightmare on the eyes. Oh, and despite looking great, sadly there are no replays. Thankfully, the on-pitch action is a massive improvement over its predecessor. First of all, you can actually pause the game this time. You also get some welcome tactical and formation settings. The physics feel much better and the controls are far more responsive. However, the pace is incredibly slow and laboured. That heavily zoomed in view also means there are only usually 2 players on the screen at once, so you have to constantly rely on the radar to spot your teammates. Another frustration is the inability to manually switch players when you don't have the ball. ISS 2000 is miles better than the shocker that was ISS 99. It looks brilliant, packs in plenty of modes and has that undeniable Konami charm. Once you get used to relying on the radar, it plays decently enough, but that plodding pace holds it back from being any higher. It certainly isn't terrible, but if I'm being brutally honest, it just isn't a great deal of fun to play for long stretches. Grabbing the runner-up spot at number 2 is FIFA 2000. Developed by Tech Studios and published by EA Sports in Europe, this hit the handheld in December 1999. As you'd expect from the FIFA banner, it arrives stacked with content. You get friendlies, full leagues, tournaments, playoffs and even a dedicated indoor mode. There are over 60 international sides to choose from alongside solid team management options, including tactics and formations. Match settings let you tweak the weather, enable wind and toggle between arcade or realistic stamina. Bizarrely, despite holding the official FIFA title, there isn't a single real player name in sight. They are entirely made up. Tech pulled off something quite special by implementing FIFA's iconic 16-bit isometric camera perspective. It gives you a fantastic view of the pitch compared to almost every other handheld competitor. The player sprites and animations look decent, though curiously every single player on the pitch shares the exact same stark white skin tone. On the audio side of things, the soundtrack is strong and the matchday atmosphere is bolstered by visible crowds along the touchlines and solid crowd audio. However, the indoor mode strips all the spectators and crowd sound out entirely. On the pitch, it plays remarkably like classic 16-bit FIFA, which is a massive compliment. The isometric camera translates brilliantly to the small screen, making passing, running with the ball and taking shots feel genuinely satisfying. The action can suffer from occasional slowdown when the screen gets congested, but otherwise it flows very well. That indoor mode also acts as a brilliant, fast-paced alternative. While it obviously can't match its home console counterparts, pulling off that authentic 16-bit isometric gameplay on an 8-bit handheld is an impressive achievement. It looks decent, sounds great, and most importantly is genuinely fun to play. If you grew up loving 16-bit FIFA, you'll feel right at home with this one. Taking the number 1 spot is Pocket Soccer. Developed by Gameplay Studios and released in March 2001, there's surprisingly little info about this one online, and the studio behind it remains a bit of a mystery. It looks as though the North American release was cancelled, leaving it as a European exclusive, and what a loss that was, because this game is fantastic. To be honest, I was starting to think our number 1 spot was just going to be the best of a pretty bad bunch, but this completely blew me away. When you jump into the menus, you've got Quick Start, Friendlies, Playoffs and a League mode. Now the teams are entirely fictional, but the game gives you full editing tools to rename and customise both teams and players. The real star here is the League mode, which is surprisingly deep. You start off taking charge of a low skilled squad, and between matches you actually play fun training mini games to level up your players' stats. On top of that, you can trade players as the season goes on, giving you a proper sense of progression as you build up your team. In terms of sound and visuals, this punches way above its weight. Astonishingly, it features a digitised voice announcer calling out things like goals and free kicks, something no other game on this list managed to pull off. When there's a crowd present, they'll actively cheer whenever a goal goes in, which adds a brilliant atmosphere. The visual design features kids as players in a charming, cartoony style. The fluid animations are seriously impressive, pushing the 8-bit 2D graphics to their absolute limits, and almost giving the game a pseudo 3D look. Best of all, it runs incredibly smoothly. You also get a choice of 12 distinct pitches, ranging from indoor gyms and sports halls to a schoolyard with graffiti on the walls, and even a beach surrounded by sunbathers. They all look completely unique and excellent in their own right. Getting straight to it, this game is just an absolute joy to play. The on-pitch action feels incredibly fluid with fantastic passing and shooting mechanics. The games are all 5-a-side, resulting in non-stop, frantic, high-scoring, end-to-end matches. Adding to the depth, certain players possess special attributes, like boosted dribbling, tackling, saving or shooting, which run on cooldown timers and can be used to give you an edge during games. Coupled with brilliant ball physics and ultra-responsive controls, it's a simple setup but works flawlessly and just feels amazing to play. I was genuinely blown away by Pocket Soccer. If you can look past the fictional team names and don't mind only playing 5-a-side, this delivers the absolute best gameplay on the system by some distance. The League mode brings a surprising amount of depth and customization is great. The on-pitch variety adds a lovely touch and everything looks superb. Out of every single title I tested for this video, this was the only game I genuinely didn't want to put down and look forward to playing again. If you have the means to try it out, I cannot recommend Pocket Soccer highly enough, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it down in the comments. Has anyone else played this one? And there we have it, all 13 football games on the Game Boy Color ranked and reviewed. Well, I think it's safe to say it's maybe not the best selection of games. You do have to respect the sheer ambition of trying to capture football on that hardware. But for me, unearthing a genuine hidden gem like Pocket Soccer made the whole journey completely worthwhile. Let me know down in the comments which of these you grew up playing, or if I've completely missed the mark and put your absolute childhood favourite near the bottom of the list. If you enjoyed this, please do the usual YouTube things. Leave a like, subscribe for more of these, and I'll catch you on the next one.